Hi everyone, welcome to this week's episode of the Recruitment Reality Podcast. I am delighted to be joined by a new associate of mine, Rosa from Stella Select. Rather than me give an introduction, it'd be amazing if you could. And actually, the thing that we were talking about before around sitting on that board of psychologists, that would probably be quite interesting to share with people. So over to you, Rosa. It'd be good to hear more.
Hello, everybody. So, my name's Rosa Hilmi. I'm the co founder and managing director of Stella Select. We are a niche recruitment consultancy, really partnering up with financial services businesses, predominantly in the lending space. My role within the business is quite varied. We are in a position of growth. And on top of that, I've recently become a board member to the Association of British Psychologists, or business psychologists. Something I'm very, very excited about. I'll be partnering up with them to grow their members. And at the same time, I'm scaling Stella Select into 2024.
Amazing. So tell us a little bit more about Stella Select and how long it's been going as a business. Obviously,
Okay.
always great to hear that a recruitment business is growing at the
Yeah.
moment, as many are struggling. So it'd be great to hear a bit more.
So the business is 19 years old. I set up Stella Select after having my daughter. She was 3 months old at the time. At the time, I wanted to have the freedom to work for myself. Within the first year, we were profitable. We've always kept the business quite small. So there's 10 of us at the moment. We recruit across the whole of the UK. We now want to grow. My daughter's now 19. She's at university. I'm now looking to create Stella Point 2, which is going to be a larger business. Over the last couple of years, we've gotten heavily involved with lots of projects to automate, to use technology. We have been working extensively across our employee engagement, our EVPs, lots and lots of exciting things going on here. It's very fast paced, but it's I think really by the time we get to year 20, I'm really hoping that we'll be doubling size. That's really what we're hoping to achieve.
Amazing. That's awesome. So, what are you, in terms of the market in
hmm
general? What are you seeing? Because a lot of people are still struggling as
hmm
recruitment organisations. What are you seeing, and maybe how are you attacking it differently to be able to kind of keep growing without giving away any secret sauce? Obviously.
Yeah. Okay. I think really what I'm seeing is there's a lot of change with businesses, and I think that's inevitable. Yes, there are redundancies, but from my perspective, whenever there's change, there's always opportunity. I know that in our market, we have been quite heavily impacted this year, but we've still been placing, we've still been generating business. Our market is in the lending sector, so interest rates have had a massive impact to business volumes this year. We're probably seeing that a lot of our clients in our space have been really looking to streamline, have been looking to restructure. There's been a huge amount of change, but then we've also seen other businesses where, although our market hasn't been great, they've got really strong USPs. They're able to be a lot more fluid in the market. They're able to react and be a lot more agile. So there are peaks and troughs really in our market, and it's not a great time, but there are still businesses out there that are doing incredibly well.
Hmm.
I think you asked what are we doing at the moment to kind of counter that.
Yeah, I guess. I mean, one thing that you've obviously talked about is working on your EVP, having USPs, all of that kind of stuff. And I totally agree that in terms of the sort of the market, what you have to do in a tough market is I believe personally, get niche. A lot of people go the other
Yeah,
way and go, oh, I'm going to do everything to all people. But actually, if you get super niche and super specialized, and that's a niche where
yeah.
there's opportunity, then you can do much better. Be good to hear your
Yeah,
opinion
we
on that.
Yeah, I agree with that. And to be honest, with this business, we've got very, very firm niches. So we recruit across the entire lending cycle. So when business is down, we cover the arrears and the recovery side of things. So really, my advice would be, have a backup plan. When the credit crunch happened, and we're going back quite a few years, we were really impacted, and we learnt our lesson then. We very, very quickly diversified because we were really focusing on underwriting and originations. And as a result of the credit crunch, we started to deal with servicing, and that's all things arrears related and recoveries related. And we've really carved out a niche on both sides of the spectrum, from new lending all the way to
Mm,
possessions and recoveries. So that would probably be the biggest thing I learnt back then. Obviously, we survived that. We've survived the pandemic. We've survived what's happened this year as well.
mm,
So I think it's really having the US a strong USP, and sometimes your USPs are not actually what you think are going to attract businesses. And I think that's something that I've really learned this year. Being a niche recruiter, you really need to have very, very good USPs. Um, Again, I think for us, we've been successful because we keep on top of the industry. So again, we read up about what's going on in our market. Whenever we hear that there are new funding lines, we're approaching businesses. Whenever there are changes or there are redundancies, we're reaching out to those organisations to see if we can help place a staff somewhere else. Again,
hmm
it's a good opportunity to network. And as a result, I often run free workshops for businesses making redundancies who've then gone on to become clients.
mm,
Candidates who we've actually helped have gone on to become clients. So it's really about the small things, really, building those firm USPs, really building relationships with people, and just seeing that even when you're helping to find people jobs who have been made redundant, there's always going to be opportunity there.
That's really interesting, and not a strategy that I've talked about much with anybody,
Hmm.
to be honest, in terms
Hmm.
of helping and consulting with organisations making redundancies, because obviously that's a
Yeah,
natural candidate pool, right?
it is.
That's
It
and
is.
and
Yeah.
they're in a situation of need, and you're in a situation where you can potentially help them. So, but I guess it's obviously sensitive as well. How do you kind of manage that sensitivity, if you like? Like somebody going through a redundancy is going through a really tough time, right?
Yeah.
And usually it's a highly emotive situation, right?
Hmm.
And quite a lot of people that are getting made redundant, actually the last thing they want to think about is getting a new job. Some of them are
Yeah.
like, all I can think about is getting a new job. It's really quite tumultuous, right, in terms of in their lives.
Yeah.
As a recruiter, how do you help and support that in a sensitive way, whilst also
Hmm.
obviously trying to generate business from it? Does that make sense?
It does. It does. I think really it's a common sense approach. It's very simple from my perspective. It's about putting yourself in that person's shoes. Whenever we really register anybody that's going through redundancy, I think it's really just explaining that, you know, there's always going to be opportunity out there. You may be made redundant now, but somebody else could really want your skill set.
Mm,
And what we tend to do is really we tend to go in on site and we will present. We'll give a lot of information to people, things that perhaps I haven't really considered. Because I know that
mm,
when you're being made redundant, a lot of organisations will arrange for a HR consultancy to come in and go through your
hmm
CV. And a lot of feedback we get from individuals is that whilst that's great to help with the CV, it's not actually that helpful.
mm,
What we do that's different is we really talk to them about things that they need to be considering when they're actually putting their CV forward. So a lot of people might make assumptions. So if somebody's worked for a mortgage lender and that mortgage lender specialises in 4 different products, really understanding that, a lot of the people that are shortlisting CVs are not specialists. You could have somebody inexperienced. So really highlighting those specialisms in terms
mm,
of the lending types that you're underwriting. Things like if you hold a lending mandate, which is really important for our market. If you're an underwriter, you're only an underwriter if you've got a mandate.
hmm
If you don't document that, then they don't know you've got it.
mm,
Um, if it's a senior mandate, you want to highlight that. If you're dealing with exceptions or things outside the policy, so all of these great things that people just assume that people will
We'll
know.
figure out. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. If you're working for a specialist lender, again, you might have somebody that's not in that market reviewing your CV. You need to
Mm,
spell it out. I think really, on top of that, another bit of advice would be just to be kind to yourself. It's not fun, going through that. And often if there's a bunch of you going through the same process at the same time, it makes it even more stressful. But I
mm,
think the best advice would be just be kind to yourself. Often, I'd say right now, the market isn't wonderful, but then we're coming close to Christmas pay rises and salary reviews and bonus time. What will probably happen is a lot of businesses are holding fire from recruiting at the moment because they know it's pointless because we're
mm-hmm,
coming around that corner. So it's just sometimes understanding that the market just isn't there.
mm,
And looking at perhaps variations of roles that you can do that still keep you within your skill set because nothing's forever.
yeah.
Markets do pick up, things do
Well,
change.
and I think it kind of comes back to what you talked about at the beginning and having a USP and a niche, right? If you're a specialist, make sure people know just how specialist you
You
are,
are,
and
yeah,
actually, I think the thing with like a HR consultant going in and giving advice around a CV is if you're a specialist, really your CV is not that important. What's important
yeah,
is connecting with people like yourself, Rosa,
mm,
and businesses that do what you do because you will have the roles available in that specialist area because 9 times out of 10 the companies that are looking, they don't know where to look, they can't find the people, right? Because it's
yeah,
specialists, that's the whole
yeah,
point. So really good advice both for obviously for recruiters and for candidates themselves. Think about what are your own USPs and how are you getting that across if you have to use the dreaded CV. Obviously, you've been going 19 years. What have you noticed about candidates over those 19 years and their changes in attitude to getting a job and working with recruiters like yourself?
That's a tough one over the because I've been it's second nature now to me. But I think it's
Mm.
again going back to a common sense approach in terms of I think people just want to be heard. People want to tell you their story, and really before really we should be looking to actually try to match them to jobs or to assess them. We need to learn from them what they've done, what they enjoy, where they want to be, what sorts of businesses they want to work for. There's so many different things that you recruiters don't always consider. It's a very very human thing finding a job. It's a very stressful thing,
Mm.
and I think it's really about this. I think the reason why we've been successful is learning, just really get to know the individual first of all, then try to match them, then try to assess them.
Mm.
Otherwise you're not really offering any value.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's interesting again. What is the value of a recruiter if all you're doing is slinging out their CV 100 times and hoping
Yeah, yeah. I mean,
that
we
it
we we
sticks?
get to know individuals and we talk through what they've done. We learn about what they've done. We get them to tell us their story, and then we probe, then we assess, then we match.
Hmm.
And sometimes we're talking people out of going for certain jobs because it's just not the right thing. When you really get to know them, you're able to qualify them as a business for our clients, but also as a candidate as well.
Mm.
Sometimes you just have that frank conversation to say, I just don't think this is quite what you want. I heard you
Mm.
say this, and in reality, this isn't what you're telling me that you want.
Mm. So I think in the general market, most people tell me that candidates have become more demanding over time. Would you say that that's fair, or do you think maybe actually people just aren't treating candidates with the same respect that they used to, or they're not getting to know and understand, what the candidate wants and that kind of stuff, and that's why
Yeah,
actually it's not
yeah.
working?
I don't feel that candidates are being too demanding. I think that we often approach individuals that are passively looking. They're not always actively looking, and then we work with people that are actively like looking for employment. I think it's just a question of, people. I think really with the whole COVID situation with hybrid working, remote working, the thing that perhaps people, from my perspective, maybe a bit more demanding, or would be that there's an expectation. Why can't I work remotely? Why can't it be hybrid? And we often get people apply for jobs where it's hybrid saying, well, I would just assume it'd be a remote role. That would probably be the only thing that I would state that we see demands. But to be honest, I think it's just that candidates are not being heard, they're not being spoken to, they're not being listened, they're not being asked the right questions. I don't feel that our candidate pool is being demanding. I think if anything, they know more what they want, and they're able to communicate that more.
There's a difference between being more demanding and ending up with a better shortlist because
Yeah.
people actually know what they want.
Yeah, and I think if logistically something can't work, then you need to listen to what someone's telling you.
Yeah, interesting. So switching gears slightly, as you've obviously had the business for a very long time and kept it successful and now growing. What kind of technology have you used over the years, and what do you think is going to help you? What technology is going to help you grow, double the business, as you said, in the future?
I mean, like with a lot of businesses like ours, they have automation, but that's been a big thing. And I think that's really helped us to improve the candidate journey and the candidate experience. So we have lots of triggers to make sure that, things don't fall through the cracks. Candidates do get a good experience. People do hear back from a recruiter, even if it's a question of delivering the news that they don't want to hear. You still need to deliver those hard messages, those hard updates. And I think really a lot of people would learn that people expect to hear, no, it hasn't gone your way this time round. This is the reason why. You can't always get a yes, but I think that just really understanding that it's okay to give people honest feedback. They're going to be grateful, they're going to be happy, and they're going to know at least I've got some insight as to why that didn't work out this time round.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that I've just done a recruitment round for Willow, and one of the really stark things that hit me was when I was giving candidates negative but constructive feedback. I got no negative response from them, but I got loads of positive responses saying, "Thank you so much. It's so rare that anybody would ever keep me up to date." And I'm there thinking, that's just crazy.
Common courtesy. Yeah.
Exactly. It's common courtesy, but B, if I ever want to come back to that candidate again, and I've not even bothered telling them why or when or the fact that it's not worked out or whatever it may be, they're not going to engage with me in the slightest. So why would you not spend the time doing that? Is there any specific technology that you use that helps to do that?
We're using something called Herefish. So that integrates with our CRM, and we have an operations analyst that manages all of that. Don't get me wrong, he will probably know more about our tech stack than I do, but so we use that. And again, all the usual bits and pieces, but we have a CRM that it integrates with. But again, perhaps that might be a conversation to have with our ops guy separate time. He will probably be able to share more interesting information about that.
Yeah, well, even just a name, I've never even heard of Herefish before.
Okay.
So, looking forward to digging into that a little bit more. So, look, we're coming up to the end of our time together. I think with such a wealth of experience, clearly within recruitment, and clearly your focus is, much like ours, is on the candidate experience.
Yeah.
And I think if you have a good candidate experience, everything else falls into place, to be totally honest. What advice would you give to other recruiters who are looking to, keep their business for as long as you have and then start doubling the size of it? What advice would you give to them around giving a candidate a good experience?
They are your product. Without them, you haven't got a business. Those products can become your clients. Those clients can become your friends. Those candidates you might place 3-4 times over, and you'll be their exclusive recruiter. Update them, even if it's via email. I've got a rule within our team: if it's a CV submission, and we have it all through automation, an automated email goes out, but it's that day that we get feedback. Every time you have updates, update your candidates. It's not hard, it doesn't take long, and it builds really, really powerful relationships with people that, again, you're going to want to call again in the future.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the main thing for me that I realised probably too late in my recruitment career, especially placing grads, was that those graduates could easily become your clients in the future.
Oh, yeah.
And it wouldn't take them that long, 2 to 3 years max, and they would be making a decision as to whether to hire a candidate or not. And if you gave them a crappy experience, you're out the door. If you gave them an amazing experience, you're much more likely to be trusted and win their business. And also you understand them better. So then when it comes to the point of actually dealing with them and placing candidates, you go, I know what this individual likes.
Yeah.
So here's a shortlist that's going to hit the mark.
Well, the large majority of our clients are either candidates who have then become hiring managers. So, we've gained a lot of our business through service.
Yeah, I love that. Amazing. Any just to sort of round off the conversation, any final pointers that you'd maybe give to candidates in your market at the moment?
I think stay positive. The new year is going to be a new time. I think businesses need to kind of reset. There's a lot of transformation. There's a lot of money. There's a lot of funding. There are businesses out there that are going through significant change, and there are going to be massive opportunities there. And again, if you come from a consumer lending space, there are many different types of consumer lending businesses out there, new and existing. The market's still going to be buoyant.
Yeah, awesome. Okay, well, look, let's take some of that positivity. Thank you so much, Rosa, for joining me on
Anytime.
the podcast. If somebody wants to get hold of you or get in touch with Stella Select, what's the best way for them to reach out?
To give us a call, or again, if they want to connect on LinkedIn, message me that way. Always happy to talk.
Awesome. Okay, great. Well, thank you. Thank you, everybody, for listening. I hope you enjoyed the episode. Don't forget to subscribe. And as always, if you have any questions for me, just come and find me on LinkedIn. And as Rosa said, if you want to speak to Rosa directly, you can find her too. I'll put all of those details in the show notes as well. Thank you very much. Thanks, Rosa, and have a good rest of your week.
Likewise. Thank you. Bye-bye.